Pittsburgh, WOCN Madison. Madison Sports Talk Station. The Source is a Wisconsin Sports Zone update.
Well, the importance of Packers-Ravens tomorrow night took a bit of a hit yesterday as Green Bay clinched a playoff berth with Detroit's loss in Minnesota. It means no matter what happens over the final 2 weeks, Packers will play in the postseason for a sixth time in Coach Matt LaFleur's 7 seasons. Their seed, though, is up in the air, as they could still win the NFC North with wins over Baltimore and Minnesota, along with the Bears losing to the 49ers and Lions. To get a win tomorrow night against the Ravens, Packers going to need to slow down Derrick Henry, running back coming off back-to-back 100-yard games, averaging nearly 6 yards per carry in the month of December. Packers safety Evan Williams knows they're going to have their hands full.
No signs of slowing down, I'll tell you that much. But key to stopping him, I mean, he's one of those guys that can be a game breaker if you don't account for him. Big, physical, and once he gets going, it's definitely hard to stop him. One of the things that we can do is really just stop him before he gets going.
The Packers announced quarterback Jordan Love will not play in the game due to a concussion. Malik Willis listed as questionable with a shoulder injury, but should get the start. Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson doubtful, so Tyler Huntley will likely start there. Kick tomorrow is set for 7.
Keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance. Keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Bucs back in action tonight as they take on the Grizzlies down in Memphis, second road game this week. And the Wisconsin basketball team still on a bit of a holiday break, can return to the floor Tuesday against Milwaukee at the Kohl Center, then back into Big Ten play. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil.
42 starts in college. That certainly benefits guys. Get tricky here. Jordan Addison turns on the speed. Look out, Addison. Did he get there? Forced toward the sideline. Touchdown!
Well, I'm going to be looking at a lot, I'm going to be looking at a lot of things, because I do not like being home for playoffs.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Some sound from the Lions game yesterday. The middle game, the 3 o'clock game, I guess. It feels weird having a full slate of games on Christmas. But the game that we were obviously almost interested in because there were actual playoff implications for the Packers. So that's the sound of Dan Campbell after the game. His team eliminated from the playoffs. It's pretty wild. I was looking at the standings, and sometimes this is how the league works. This isn't that crazy, but it's pretty wild to be 8-8 and in last place in your division. The NFC North is pretty darn solid, even with the Vikings playing with quite literally some of the worst quarterback play I think we've ever seen a team have for an entire season, and that was evident yesterday with Max Brosmer. And I don't know how many yards he ended the game with, or how many passing yards, I should say, they ended the game with. But at a certain point, I think it was in the third quarter, they had a negative amount of yards, and yet they were able to beat the Detroit Lions, and the Packers were in the playoffs because of it. So that's where we will begin. This is the Wisco Sports Show, broadcasting live at Keyes Chevytown here on the north side of Menomonie, as we did last year. And it's very festive in here. I'm surrounded by Corvettes and trucks and Christmas trees. And it works out well, because Keyes is a great sponsor of the show, and a place and a business that's been going for, as I tell, especially our Eau Claire audience on WAYY, we're going for 3 generations and helping people with their vehicles for a long time and doing business the right way for a long time, which is why, they've been in business and so successful now for such a long time, is because people keep coming back. So that's a great reason to be here. Another great reason is I need an oil change. So my Malibu's over in the service department, get the tires rotated. And they're probably like, wow, this dude's car is kind of a mess, because I've driven a lot the last 2 weeks and the roads have been a little sloppy. So they probably pulled it in. And they're like, holy cats. Maybe they'll rinse it off for me as well. So again, live here at Keyes Chevytown. They're a short drive from anywhere, just off of I-94, exit 41. So the one where you see, the classic historic downtown Menomonie signs, UW Stout signs on the north side of town. But of course, online anytime, ChevytownUSA.com. Be wise, see Keyes for the best buys, as they say. So if you're looking for a vehicle, they're a certified pre-owned dealer as well. Their inventory is updated daily, ChevytownUSA.com, and you can take advantage, as I am today, of their award-winning service department as well. Ryan Wood is going to be here in 15 minutes because it's Friday, and he joins us to wrap up every week, PackersNews.com. You can find him on Twitter at @ByRyanWood. He is presented by Lacrosse Beer House. That will not change. I recorded with Ryan this morning around 10, and I was in a video call with Ryan, and we both had let's just say I had bedhead. Ryan is bald. So he had bedhead as well. We're both like, this is early. He had just recorded a podcast. And I believe, does he podcast with Tom Silverstein? And I know for sure Dominique Yates, and I think Tom is on there sometimes. I think it's the Green 19 podcast, which I should know, which you should listen to, of course, after the show, not during. But Ryan will be here in about 15 minutes. Recorded this morning, and at the time we didn't know the status of Jordan Love. He thought he was going to play. I kind of thought he was going to play too, because he had practiced all week. Now that doesn't mean that he was guaranteed to play, because, and I need to remind myself of this as well, players can practice while they're in the concussion protocol. They're limited, and I don't know exactly the machinations of how that works. I would assume it's just you're not cleared for contact. You can do walkthroughs and you can do drills and you can do all that stuff if you reach a certain point in the protocol, which Jordan Love obviously had. A note that I'll pass along here to begin, and I didn't know this until a couple of minutes ago. Rob Domofsky included in his story, Jordan Love didn't clear protocol. So when Mike Clemens first texted me and Bill, and he texted Kate and Austin as well, that it was going to be Jordan Love tomorrow, we got the news it was going to be Malik Willis. My first question was, well, is it because he's still in protocol? Or is it because maybe they wanted to give him a week now that they had cleared a playoff spot? And that was, of course, due to the Vikings winning yesterday. He's not cleared protocol yet. And Rob Domofsky, writing in his story, Love was downgraded to out on Friday because he sustained a concussion last Saturday. He did not clear all the required stages of concussion protocol. Willis finished the game against the Bears, but injured his shoulder on the final play of regulation. So it's going to be Malik Willis tomorrow. So we'll get into those details as the show goes on. It's not necessarily what I would have wanted to talk about with Ryan Wood anyways. We discussed Malik Willis a little bit, so you'll hear that. But we talked a little bit more big picture about the season, special teams and Rich Bisaccia, some of the defensive things. It's a really good conversation, so that'll be coming up in the next segment. I want to talk a little bit about the games yesterday, including Vikings Lions and what it means for the Packers. And I realized yesterday that that I'm part of the problem. I am not proud of it, but I didn't watch an ounce of basketball yesterday. In fact, we were talking about this with some friends in a group chat. I didn't even think about it. I did not even think about the NBA yesterday. I watched, I think, probably a combined 75% of all the football games yesterday. I think I missed the first half of the night game last night because we were watching The Sound of Music as a family. Football all day is a little bit much on Christmas. None of the games were high level yesterday. None of them had real meaning, unless you're a Packers fan, because that afternoon game did. And maybe if you're a Patriots fan, you were paying attention to the Broncos last night, because if the Broncos had lost, well, that impacts the 1 seed. But then again, they were playing the Chiefs, who have mostly stunk this year, in a quarterback that nobody's ever heard of. So it's not even like the Broncos were playing an elite opponent. Not that that made the game a runaway for them. Maybe we'll talk about the Broncos and how they looked last night later on in the show. But I didn't watch any basketball yesterday. And I don't know. Maybe we could talk about this. Maybe Bill mentioned this earlier today. I think it's fascinating how what used to be completely and totally the NBA's day, it's an afterthought. I'm not sure that I like it. But then again, like, I like football more than basketball, just like everybody else. I watched the games yesterday and didn't even think about turning on the NBA. The Packers haven't played since Saturday, right? And there have been a couple games since then, Monday night, and 3 of them yesterday. My reaction and my continued reaction to just about every football game that I've watched this year that hasn't been the Packers is I'm just there just aren't any great teams. I think it's a cliche to say that, well, the league sucks and nobody's good and there aren't any good teams. There are good teams. I think there are great teams. But there's a real lack of juggernauts in the NFC and the NFL just as a whole this year. And by juggernaut, I mean there's no teams against which I would feel the Packers are drawing dead. You know what I mean? Like last year when the Packers drew the Eagles, it kind of feels like they're pork. You watch, because any given Sunday, and it's a 60-minute game, and the ball isn't round, and all the cliches. Obviously, there have been years where there's multiple 13-win teams. I think it was 2019 where the Niners, the Saints, and there might have even been, I think the Packers won 13 games too that year, but it was, I don't think anybody thought that team was unbelievable. But you just felt like, man, there's a couple elite teams, and you're going to have to avoid at least one or two of them in the playoffs. I don't feel like the Packers have to avoid anybody. I don't think anybody has to avoid anybody this year. The top seeds in the AFC are New England, who I don't think that's a complete roster. I think Drake May's been great and their schedule is manageable, but I don't think that's a complete roster, and they're improving. And the Broncos are going to be the one seed. And did you watch the Broncos last night? Like, my thought watching the Broncos last night was like, oh yeah, okay. So if the Packers hadn't lost all of their good players 2 Sundays ago, I feel like the Packers would have won, as the Jaguars did in elevation. The team from Florida won at elevation last week and kind of stuck it to them. Like, Denver's going to be a one seed, and they're a good team, and they'll be tough to beat, as any high level playoff teams are. But that's not a juggernaut. And I don't even know if the top seeds in the NFC even worth discussing. San Francisco could end up playing for the one seed next week. The Bears could be the one seed. And I don't think either of those teams are juggernauts. I've been really impressed with the Niners, but all of their elite players, Nick Bosa's hurt, Fred Warner's hurt, Brandon Ayuk just straight up left. Like, I don't think either one of those teams are unbeatable. The NFC and the NFL are just so winnable. And to me, not to take a negative spin today, because I think the Packers are really good, but the state of the league around the Packers makes this season so far pretty disappointing as I look back at it. And they've given us lots of great games, and they're going to be in the playoffs, and anything can happen totally. And I think the Packers are capable of winning multiple playoff games, even if they're a wild card, even if they're the 7th seed and they got to go on the road. But this season to me is a little disappointing looking back, because I think this team is really good. And that's why they should be winning this division. Not the Bears. And I think the Bears are very good. I think Ben Johnson's done a great job in year one. Caleb Williams has really done some great things. But like, the Packers should be winning this division. They should have. I'll go one step further. The Packers should have clinched this division already. And I know they're dealing with injuries and they've had some bad luck. Yeah, sure. Can't control injuries. Okay, so I'll give them a pass on the Denver game when they lost Christian Watson and Zach Tom and Micah Parsons. Like, yeah, that sucks. I think they would have won that game without the injuries. We'll never know. But Cleveland and Carolina and Chicago last weekend, I'll even give them a pass in the Eagles game, which I thought is a game they easily could have and maybe should have won at home. Cleveland, Carolina, Chicago last weekend, even with the backup quarterback. Those all should have been wins. And I'll even give them a pass on Dallas, because I think Dallas has proven that they're it's funny, Dallas has been a little bit of a roller coaster this year. At first, we thought they were awful. And then we thought, ooh, this team's pretty good. And now they've come back down to earth again. But I think on the level, Dallas is a solid team. And in their building on prime time on an emotional night with Micah Parsons coming back, and they're all probably charged up, like, I'll even give them a pass on the tie in Dallas. I'll give them a pass against the Eagles, and I'll give them a pass against the Broncos. But that's 3 wins or 3 losses, right? Cleveland, Carolina, and the Bears when you're up 10 or you're up 2 scores with however many minutes to go last Saturday night. Like, this team should be winning the division. And I know that you can win a Super Bowl as a wild card. It's been done, but it's really rare for good reason. It means you're playing more games, it means you're traveling more, you're playing more games on the road. And like, just, I mean, it's common sense, but it's worth repeating. When you're a wild card, you are playing teams better than you. You are playing up, right? You are playing against teams that will probably be favored in that matchup. You're going to their building. They're probably more rested than you. It's just really hard to do. And had the Packers lost Jordan Love for a combined month this year, or Micah Parsons got hurt in week 2 instead of in week, whatever it was, 13, 14, 15, I lose track. Like, okay, then maybe a wild card makes a little bit more sense. But this team should be a top seed. They should be fighting for a bye. And they should be, right now, if not clinch the division already, because again, the Bears are really good. They should be eyeing up a division clincher this weekend, not, potentially resting guys because the Vikings helped you out on a game on Christmas. So, again, I don't mean to sound negative. I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer that I'm ripping the team, because they're in the playoffs. And that's not nothing. Jordan Love has made the postseason in all 3 years, even though he's, he was finding his footing in year 1. He was battling injuries last year. I think the Packers are really good. I think this team is really good, but that's why I'm a little frustrated. Like, I think this team should be fighting for the division. And I know they're still alive in the division. They got to win both. The Bears got to lose both. So it could happen. Crazier things have happened. But like to me, that I'm going to look back at the end of this year. If they got to go to Philly in round 1, or they got to go to LA at a certain point in the postseason, like, I'm going to look back and think, Carolina, Cleveland, and Chicago. Like, those are the 3 losses. You're not going to win every single game. I don't like when people look back at a season, or they take stock in the season, and let's say the Packers are 6-3. They should be 8-1. Well, losses are going to happen. You need to bake losses in. 5 losses and a tie is 3 losses and maybe a tie more than they should have. And it's really frustrating because I think this team is elite. And Ryan Wood and I are going to talk about that next. He agrees. Like, I think they have blue chip players all over the place. They have really good young depth behind those blue chippers. Like, I think Xavier McKinney and Micah Parsons are studs. And behind those guys, they have guys that they've drafted, Javon Bullard and Evan Williams, who really popped through. Javon Bullard, especially this season, but Evan Williams was great last year too. And I think along the front, they even have great young players. And Edgerrin Cooper, who's a second-year player. Like, I think they've built the type of team that can win a Super Bowl. And I think they futzed around and lost games because of special teams and failure to execute in the red zone and just little, stupid, boneheaded, avoidable things. And they could be road warriors in the playoffs. Like, you tell me, if, let's say the Bears end up getting the 1 seed and the Packers are the 7, or the Bears are the 2 and the Packers are the 7. They go to Chicago first week in the playoffs. They could win that game 100%. Like, yeah, I might even pick them to win that game, but that's kind of beside the point, at least for me today. Watching the NFL, watching the Broncos kind of underwhelm yesterday. There's not really a team either in the AFC or the NFC that I think is a juggernaut. I think this Packers team might just be, when they're healthy, especially. They're not, but when they're healthy, they might be pound for pound the best team in the NFL. And they're scratching and clawing to get the 6th or the 7th seed here the day after Christmas. And to me, that's disappointing. You might say, well, Grant, they've dealt with injuries. Sure, if you told me today the Packers record and you told me all the injuries they dealt with, okay, that record makes a good amount of sense. But if you let me sit down and watch all the games, as we've done clearly, like, they should have a couple more wins, and this should be their division. And it looks like the Bears are probably going to end up winning it. And the Packers will have to go on the road, which isn't a death sentence. Like I said, there are no juggernauts in the NFC. But I'm just very disappointed as we sit here today, looking back. And if the Packers come out, tomorrow they're going to play with Malik Willis. They beat the brakes off the Ravens. You could be feeling good going to the playoffs, sure. I just look back at this as a season with many missed opportunities. It's going to hurt them, and it's going to put them in a tougher spot, it looks like, going into the playoffs. We're going to take a break. We're going to come back and chat with Ryan Wood, PackersNews.com. Thanks to Lacrosse Beer House. We're broadcasting live here at Keyes Chevytown, the north side of Menomonie. They're just off exit 41, a short drive from anywhere, and always online, ChevytownUSA.com. Give them a call anytime or check out their inventory. It's updated daily. And the service department. My Malibu's in there right now, rotating the tires, fresh new oil, right? Those types of things. I can't recommend them enough. So everything, you can schedule service, check out their inventory, whether it's new or pre-owned, ChevytownUSA.com. Be wise, see Keyes for the best buys. We'll come back on the other side of this break with Ryan Wood and talk Packers.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network. Keep your head in the game.
Wisco Sports Show.
Follow us on Facebook at The Zone Madison. The Zone.
A good friend might tell you that your shoes untied, or hey, you've got a bit of breakfast on the corner of your mouth. Well, a good friend will also share valuable insights about the scoop on money and energy savings. Like Benjamin Plumbing and their game-changing electric hybrid water heaters. Potential savings of up to 3 to 4 times a conventional water heater with current tax incentives up to $2,000. Benjamin Plumbing's electric hybrid water heaters go beyond being just a water heater. It acts as a dehumidifier for your basement, taking musty odors, mold, and excess moisture to the curb. Eco-friendly and efficient, these electric hybrid water heaters will leave your wallet and our environment completely satisfied.
Hi, Dale Benjamin with Benjamin Plumbing. When we say your plumbing problem is fixed, we mean it. No excuses. I guarantee it. Contact Benjamin Plumbing at BenjaminPlumbing.com.
Now you've got a friend in the plumbing business.
Benjamin Plumbing.
When your kids were little, your house was the cool place where everyone wanted to hang out. You loved it. Now that they're grown and gone, wouldn't you love to reclaim what was yours? Time for a living space upgrade with W.E. Davies & Sons Remodeling. Third generation family-owned remodeling company. Their 50 years of experience will bring a fresh perspective to your project. They'll make sure you know it's yours.
For stunning, transformative results, visit WPDaviesRemodeling.com. You're my parent. I'll always choose.
No matter their age, your children never stop counting on you. Visit parenting.org or call the Boys Town National Hotline at 800-448-3000 for free parenting advice.
You know Ignite Glass and Gifts 3 locations in Madison, but you can also shop at IgniteGlassandGifts.com.
The Wisco Sports Show
lighters, collectibles, and blown glass water bottles, artistically designed jewelry, and plenty of other items delivered straight to your door or to family and friends. Madison's favorite for glass gifts and baking, Ignite Glass and Gifts, Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Banner Road. Plus, IgniteGlassandGifts.com.
Whether picking up a prescription, getting help navigating the healthcare system, or checking in at home, CVS Health is there to make sure easier and more connected. Our future is brighter together. Learn more at cvshealth.com/investor day.
The Rick Eisen Show. This AFC is open. The Colts and the Chargers and the Broncos and the Steelers sitting back watching the rest of their division fall completely apart. The Patriots are 3-2. That's what this loss by the Bills says to me, is the AFC's wide open. Anyone can take it. Laugh all you want. Colts can take it. Broncos can take it. Chargers can take it.
All kinds
Steelers
of quarterback questions entering a really big game.
96.7 FM, 1670 AM, The Soul.
Two-time NFL MVP quarterback Lamar Jackson on the field in Green Bay. Jackson officially is listed as doubtful because of what Coach John Harbaugh has called a serious back contusion suffered on this play last week. Jackson has not practiced this entire week. Definitionally, if you are listed as doubtful, that means that you are unlikely to play. They have not entirely slammed the door, but once again, much like several years ago, it appears likely we're going to see their backup, Tyler Snoop Huntley, playing a critical game, because if the Ravens lose on Saturday night, they are officially eliminated from playoff contention. On the other side of this, both of the top two Packers quarterbacks officially are listed as questionable. Starter Jordan Love suffered a concussion last week. Now, he has practiced the past couple of days, but by rule, because he has not yet cleared the concussion protocol, he has to be listed as questionable. My understanding is Love has looked good. He is feeling good, but there are 5 steps in that return to play protocol, including clearance by an independent neurologist. If that does not happen, Love will not be playing on Saturday night. The medical guidance is going to determine his status. Backup Malik Willis, by the way, dealing with a right shoulder injury as well as an illness. He returned to practice on Thursday, also listed as questionable. My understanding is Willis is trending towards being available in the event Love does not gain that clearance. As for running back Josh Jacobs, he officially is off the injury report as he continues to deal with swelling in his knee as well as an ankle injury. The question now becomes, how much of it all do they actually play Jacobs on Saturday night? The Packers, by virtue of the Lions' loss on Thursday, have already clinched a playoff spot. Do they roll Jacobs out there? You know he always wants to go. Or do they ease off him, maybe play more Emmanuel Wilson to give Jacobs a little extra time to rest? Remember, the NFC North title remains within reach, Sherry, but that would require 2 Packers wins and 2 Bears losses.
That's a long cut from Tom Pelissero. I know that was on the NFL Network earlier, but a little bit of a summary of some of the injuries that both teams are dealing with. It looks like Tyler Huntley. Now we know that Malik Willis is going to play instead of Jordan Love. So here to discuss it with us is Ryan Wood. Thanks to Lacrosse Beer House as we broadcast, not at the Beer House, but Keyes Chevytown on the north side of Menomonie. We'll be back after this interview, tell you a little bit more about some of the deals that they're running and talk about some of the other stories around the NFL. But Ryan joins us this time every Friday. So here's our conversation I recorded with him earlier today. Enjoy. Ryan Wood is here. Thanks to Lacrosse Beer House. A little post-Christmas conversation. We haven't talked since the Bears game. And I guess, Ryan, we can get into that game. But to start, I just want to throw the take at you that I began the show with. This team should be clinching the North.
And I watch the rest of the league, and I look at how good this Packers team is. There's no reason for this team to be fighting for the 6th seed and the right to go play in Philly right now. I know everything's in front of them. They could go on a run as a wild card, but it's really hard for me at this moment in time, not to be negative, to look back at the season so far and think anything other than, man, they had a great shot at this division and they kind of let it get away.
First of all, it's an interesting point. Would you rather fight for the 6th seed and go to Philly, or would you rather go to Chicago? I think you'd rather get a 7 at this point, right?
I'd probably rather go to Chicago. And it's weird. I said this last week. After both of these Packers-Bears games, I think the losing fan base came away from the game thinking we feel great in a rematch. Like it's been a really weird couple of games between those two. I think I'd rather do Chicago. Yeah.
I felt better about the Packers' long-term forecast against this new burgeoning rivalry against the Bears than I did going in. And this speaks to your point, Grant. The Packers don't have Micah Parsons, Devontae Wyatt, Evan Williams, Tucker Kraft, Elton Jenkins, Zach Tom running out of breath. That's a lot of names. I mean, Christian Watson, Josh Jacobs are limited, right? They just don't have so much of their top-end roster, and they should have won that game. Now, they didn't. The Packers should be 12-2, if not for 3 special teams plays, but they're not, and that's what matters. Isn't it strange how in a season where there's so much different this year, 1, the Bears don't suck, okay? 2, the Chiefs kind of do, and now they don't have Patrick Mahomes. The Ravens do. That's weird. The Lions are eliminated from playoff contention a week before the regular season finale. There's so much new, and then you look up and, Packers still 7th seed. Like, that's the one thing that hasn't changed. But even that's different than last year. Now, it's not like they were avoiding injuries last year. Jordan Love was injured all year last year from week 1 on. That's a big deal. He's been healthy this year, except for now with the concussion protocol. I expect him to play. He's practiced all week. That's a good sign. But he's been mostly healthy, and it's everyone else that's injured. But the final byproduct is still the same. They're the 7th seed. So, yeah, that's not what they signed up for when they executed that blockbuster trade a week before the season for Micah Parsons. With that said, you did execute that trade for him to be available all year. Now he has the torn ACL. I put the lion's share of all this on no matter what team you are, if you lose that much top-end talent, it goes from being an excuse to a reason. That's just reality. They are missing so many stars. It's a lot.
If you just told me all of those injuries and showed me the record, and I didn't watch any of the games, I'd say, okay, that makes perfect sense. Just having watched some of those games, Carolina's probably better than we thought. Dallas probably better than we thought. But still, if you make a kick in Cleveland, you win. If you feel the not like I've just watched the games, Ryan. That's my problem is I don't think they were a Micah Parsons away from beating Chicago. Probably wouldn't have hurt, but that's a game they should have had. And we don't even talk about the Eagles game. If you just don't step on it, on the doorstep of field goal range a couple of times, that was a winnable game, even considering some injuries. And I don't know who was injured at the time. It just feels like I think this team's awesome. Let me put it that way. Let me all those words to say this. I think this team is great, and they've been in every single game, which is a great sign. It's just a team to me that should have a better result, even with the injuries, come the final playoff standings. Then I think they will. We'll see what happens in the last 2 games, but I think they'll end up in a spot and have me thinking it should have been a little bit better that even with the injuries they suffered.
What you are talking about right now, I think gets at the crux of what Ed Policy's decision on Matt LaFleur is going to be going into this offseason, which is, and I'm in the camp of, I can't, even Chicago, I can't put that on coaching. Like, no. What's Rich Bisaccia supposed to do? Go field the onside kick for him?
Agreed.
They don't. You can argue maybe Romeo Doubs isn't the best guy to have in that situation in general. My mind went back to the fair catch he had inside a minute before the first half ended, and there's no Bears within 20 yards of him. And I get that as a directive to Romeo Doubs, fair catch this no matter what. But if you're sending it out a guy with the directive of fair catch this no matter what, even if you got 20 yards, you can't even catch the ball and fall forward for 5 yards in that situation. Is that the guy that you, in general, want with a wall of Bears coming at you, with the game on the line on a beautifully executed onside kick? Not ideal, but they don't have anyone else. They feel like Romeo Doubs has the best veteran hands on the team. He's their best option. There is not a better option. That's why he's there. That's why he'll be there again. I don't put that on the coaching. I don't put a lot of this at this point on the coaching because they are without all that talent. That is a real handicap. With that said, this is also why choking in Cleveland, having an extra point blocked in Dallas, losing against the Carolina Panthers team that might be better. I mean, they might be NFC South good, but that doesn't make them good.
Sure.
That's why these not finishing the deal early in the season matters. It sneaks up and bites you late in the season, and that's where they're at. That you can put on coaching. They have had plenty of opportunities to have a better record at this point in the season when the rubber's hitting the road than they have right now. So it comes down to what's the best option that they have for. I'm with you, Grant. I think when healthy, this might be the best roster in the league. This is an absolute superstar studded roster. You need blue chip talent to make a Super Bowl run. They have it in spades. Is your best option blowing it up and going with a different head coach and having a transformative offseason with all these pieces in place? Or is it continuity, which is worth its weight in gold in this league? There's a reason why the John Harbaughs, the Mike Tomlins have been employed for so long. Well-run organizations that are not the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Cleveland Browns. They know how important continuity is. And so I'm kind of in that camp of continuity is the right thing for this moment with this roster, but that's a policy decision. I think that's how they look at it.
It seems like some of these games, to stick with coaching, come down to 3 or 4 plays. And I think Matt LaFleur even said that within the last 2 weeks. And I think our Mike Clemens had a follow-up about that. If you watch football, even the games between the best and the worst teams, there's 3 or 4 plays often. It comes down to that. It just seems like in a lot of these games, the Packers haven't been the team to make those plays. And even if it's players in the right spot, what do you want the coach to do? At a certain point, can you look at that and say, well, why is it always happening? Is that coaching? Does the coach need to, is there a better message? Is there a better, like, how do you get your guys engaged? I don't know. Talk about that whole dynamic, because it seems like that thing, those 3 or 4 clutch plays, they can't make them and it's costing them games.
That's why it might not be an easy call, even though I think continuity is the right call. Because, okay, let's say you lean toward continuity. Does that mean if Matt LaFleur, you extend him this offseason, he comes back, he's the coach in 2026, are you looking at this same reality where you have a great roster, you have a Super Bowl talent roster, but there's too many games, especially early in the season, that you don't close, you just leave on the table, and it sticks you as a wild card instead of having an easier path through the playoffs in the Super Bowl or bust year? Is that a risk that you're willing to take? Because if Matt LaFleur is retained, that can't happen again. When it is Super Bowl or bust, you have got to be able to finish games you should win. And the reality is that when you have this roster, you should win most, if not all, of your games. I mean, no one's going to be 17-0. That's going to happen. But they should be a 13-14 win team with this roster. You can't do that if you leave games on the table in September and October.
Ryan Wood is here, thanks to Lacrosse Beer House. Malik Willis got here last August, right before the season. What have you seen from him and how he's grown his voice or his role on the team? Just tell me about Malik Willis.
Hey, here's another chalk one up in the Matt LaFleur column, right? My goodness, night and day difference between Tennessee Malik Williams and Green Bay Willis and Green Bay Malik Willis. Big difference. Matt LaFleur talked about it a lot this week. The footwork. He looks like an actual quarterback.
Yeah.
He does not look like a playmaker playing quarterback. He looks like a quarterback. That 33-yard touchdown to Romeo Doubs deep in the wind, sets his feet, delivers a strike. Very much more difficult throw than it looks because that wind was crazy in Chicago. It's not just, he's always had the athleticism. He's always had juice in his legs, the ability to very difficult to tackle and to make plays on the ground. But he's made a ton of plays with his arm. I go back to the Jacksonville game last year, the Jaden Reed deep pass that sealed the game down the left side, puts it on down the field. Like, we've seen this time and time again. And in this league, and I've used the same analogy for the Baltimore Ravens. Like, in this league, if a team or a player keeps telling you who he is, the best thing to do is believe him, right? 17 weeks, the Baltimore Ravens have told us they're not that good.
I agree.
Guess what? They're not that good. For 2 years now, Malik Willis has told us he is a true dual threat quarterback. He is a quarterback that can put you consistently in positions to win, move the offense consistently, make plays with his arms and legs. Best to believe him, which leads to, yeah, I think that going into free agency, I have to believe there's a team out there in a league with a dearth of good quarterbacks that's going to look at those tools and those intangibles and say, give this guy a shot and see what happens. I don't know what happens to that shot, but I think that he might get it.
And a pretty level-headed, well-spoken guy. When I've heard your conversations with him, the media scrum, he seems to be a guy who has it figured out. That's pretty important at quarterback, right? Like I always use this example, and maybe he'll turn out to be a good player. I listen to Jackson Dart at the podium, and I just look at what he's wearing, and I'm like, I don't know, man. Like I don't know. And I listen to Malik Willis. I'm like, that's kind of how you got to be wired. That's how a quarterback should sound.
If you spend any amount of time talking to Jordan Love and Malik Willis, you quickly learn why this has not been a problem. There has been no friction because they are wired the exact same. They're both level-headed. Malik Willis, every time we've talked to him, has sounded like Jordan Love between 2020 and 2022. Like there's an understanding of, yeah, I'm pretty good. I make plays. I have confidence in myself, but I'm not the starter. And there is a starter, and he respects that, just like Jordan Love respected that he wasn't Aaron Rodgers. It's been very similar in that way. I think that's you hit a great point there, Grant, because I think that's been very important. In another situation, this could have been a lot different, where Jordan Love, if he's not a level-headed guy, he might be feeling it a little bit. You know, you got to the most popular guy in town is always a hot backup quarterback, and Malik Willis has shown that over 2 years. He hasn't stressed, because Jordan Love doesn't stress, and Malik Willis. If you have a guy that's going out there making plays and then talking about it and yapping his mouth, that could create friction. He doesn't yap his mouth, so that's a big reason why this has worked so well.
Did we talk about Javon Bullard last week? There's a Christmas holiday now since last I've been on air, and maybe this is a conversation I had with Mike Clemens, but it just seems like Evan Williams goes down. Javon Bullard now has a chance to play almost all the snaps and has kind of forced his way onto the field. What he's become in year two, I think is such an important piece of this defense, because this defense, to me, when they struggle, it's when they start allowing 3-yard carries to turn into 6 or 7-yard carries. Like that's when they get into trouble. And a player like Javon Bullard rallying to the ball, he's kind of at the forefront of that really important thing for them.
You know, when you talk about what it takes to create a Super Bowl capable roster, you got to have the top end talent that we mentioned. The other thing you have to do is you got to hit in the draft. And with those 2 picks, Evan Williams 4th round, Javon Bullard 2nd round, they hit massively in the draft. Both are having huge year 2 jumps. And I did think it was interesting because as a rookie, every time we saw Javon Bullard on the back end, it didn't look good. Like it wasn't what you wanted to see, to the point that I thought it was a shoo. It was obvious that he was going to be the nickel corner this year 2 and be close to the line. He looked fine on the back end, right? And I think that has more to do with the general overall player. His play speed, his play style is off the charts. It's much better than as a rookie, understandably so. Not surprised. Wherever you put him, he's going to have that play style. He's going to have that play speed. He's diagnosing super quick, which is obviously very important on the back end. So I think that's just a testament to his development. And again, Brian Gutekunst smashed a couple draft picks there, and that's big for the real foundation of this roster.
And lastly, everyone wants Rich Bisaccia fired, but I always point out on the radio, like I remember when I was in high school and I would listen to Bill Michaels and we'd get calls about Sean Slocum, right? Like this has been going on for, Ron Zook, of course, and Menenga and Mo Drayton. Like Rich Bisaccia might not be a good special teams coach. So I want you to speak to what you see and hear from him. But I'm to the point now where, like in the off season, the organization has to sit down and say, like, okay, what are we not doing? Maybe Bisaccia stinks and he's got to go anyways, but it's got to be something bigger than just the guy drawing up the field goal block on the whiteboard.
It's funny because I covered Sean Slocum at the end, and for the last couple of weeks, especially this week, I've kind of thought, man, what is this a Sean Slocum era again? Like when we go back in time, obviously the onside kick failure is very similar to the past. It has that feel. I completely agree with you. the Romeo Dobbs point I made. They feel like he has the best hands on the team, which is why he is in that position. But if you had really good hands, like if that was a real thing, I don't care what you say, you're not automatically drawing a fair catch before halftime, even if there's no coverage around you. Like if there was the utmost trust for his hands, yeah, at least let him fall forward for 5 minutes.
Well,
they
didn't do that. There's a difference, and maybe there's not, but you cover football a lot more closely. There's a difference necessarily between having the best hands and having the best awareness or sense as a returner, too. Like, those are two different things.
Which is why then it matters because it's not the same. Obviously, onside kick, you're scooping the ball, you're like a shortstop, you're not feeling a punt in the air, but you have a wall bearing down on you as a punt return, as an onside kick recoverer on the hands team. And that's not for everybody, but he's their best option because they have no one else. I mean, they do. Keyshawn Nixon, they have a 2-time All-Pro kickoff return specialist, but he's now cornerback number 1, even though he's not actually cornerback number 1. What Keyshawn Nixon is what they want Carrington Valentine to be, which is a really solid number 2, but they don't have a number 1. So to me, it goes more into roster machinations, and I think that there's a lot of good with Brian Gutekunst, but this has been a weakness. They don't have the return specialist filled on the roster that they can use because they can't use their cornerback number 1. They don't have a cornerback number 1, and there's positions that are unfit. It's just that's what happened. That's how this happens. Is if you don't have certain spots filled on your roster, you have guys that are now in position that they should not be, but there's no other choice for them to be in that position. So yeah, that goes to organizational targeting, making sure every position is filled, nothing's uncovered. It's not like a return specialist is going to swing the needle one way or the other for a Super Bowl. I understand this is the franchise of Desmond Howard. But there's a reason why we remember Desmond Howard, because it's that rare. That's not reality. But you still want to have spots filled because over the course of a long season, it might come up.
Well, that was going to be my closing point. I think that's maybe why we like football is there could be one tiny weakness and then give it 2 months and one guy gets hurt, you're slid, and all of a sudden something that you never thought would be an actual problem and cost you games. It's like glaring when you turn on the games on Sunday. What can we watch for your game story coming out this weekend? Is there anything else at Packers news that we can look for?
Yeah, obviously wall-to-wall coverage of this game against the Ravens. It lost a lot of juice, didn't it? With no Lamar Jackson, he's doubtful. No playoff spot to clinch because the Detroit Lions did that for him. But they are still very much alive for the NFC North. I think one of the interesting things this week is Grant, how much do you think Matt LaFleur would love to switch schedule slots with the Bears and 49ers this week? Well, if he could know the outcome of that game going in, all of a sudden, maybe you don't play Josh Jacobs. You don't play Evan Williams. You just kind of take your wild card and get ready for the playoffs, rest up, heal up, and get ready to go. They don't have that luxury because they don't know if the Bears are going to win or lose. So they're going to have to play their guys. And also, I think there's something to be said. You don't want to shut down 2 weeks left in the regular season. But, the NFC North is still very much alive unless 24 hours after kickoff it becomes moot point.
Well, 2 weekends going your way is not that wild. If both of the games go your way this weekend, then you need one result next Sunday. Like that's not a crazy world. And the Packers are still alive. We'll see what the Niners. What sucks is the Niners played Monday, right? The Bears played Saturday, so there's that big imbalance. If you're a Packers fan, there's a big disparity in rest. Maybe we'll see that make a difference. The
other part of that too is now that the Lions are out, you can better believe that in their regular season finale, if any guy's borderline injured, they're not going to be on the field, right? I was asked on Twitter, like, did they shut down all their starters? And I don't think that's going to happen. Like, Jared Goff's going to play. They have pride. They're going to go and field their best team that they can, but they're not going to push guys through injury in a meaningless game. After 2 years of being completely beat up in Detroit, they're just not going to do that. So that hurts the Packers' chances in the North as well.
Probably. And things have lined up for the Bears. I say a little petty as I cope with, some certain things that haven't lined up for the Packers. Ryan, I appreciate it. Enjoy the weekend. Merry belated Christmas.
Hey, Merry Christmas.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network. Instagram at zone_medicine.
You wouldn't trust a roadie to headline a show, so why trust just anyone with your roof? You contact the company loaded with a roster of highly skilled craftsmen who are all employees of the business, so every job is done right, every time. Avondale Roofing, local people you know, accountability you need for a roof that'll make you say,
"Whoa, now that's how roofs should rock."
AvondaleRoofing.com.
This New Year's Eve, the countdown gets loud at the Lazy Oak Lounge. It's the party where the drinks stay cold, the music stays hot, and the good vibes last all night long. Live music by Saturday Morning Cartel, 8 to 12:30. Enjoy a champagne shot toast at midnight, late night tasty bite, party favors, and more. Grab your friends, kiss 2025 goodbye, and ring in 2026 at the Lazy Oak Lounge New Year's Eve party beginning at 8 p.m. It's where you want to be when the clock strikes midnight. The Lazy Oak Lounge, Stoughton Road.
The holidays are here, and there's no better way to celebrate than cheering on Wisconsin basketball at the Kohl Center. This December, enjoy Big Ten action from men's and women's basketball as they light up the court all month long. Bring your family, bring your friends, and make game day party your holiday tradition. Get your tickets now at uwbadgers.com or by calling 1-800-GO-BADGERS. Finish the year strong with the Badgers at the Kohl Center.
Guys, your skin is like a high-performance engine. When it's new, it runs smooth. But over time, wear and tear starts to show. Oil builds up, parts get dull, and without maintenance, performance drops. A skincare minute with skincare expert Michelle Neeson. Your skin's no different. Sun damage, redness, and texture issues are all signs of aging skin. The good news? We've got the tools to tune it up quickly and with little to no downtime. From laser treatments such as Broadband Light or Halo to medical-grade skincare, we keep your skin running like new. Schedule your free consultation to discover the treatments that best suit you, because great skin isn't just luck, it's maintenance. To learn more, visit rejuvenationclinicofsaukprairie.com.
The house seemed perfect when you first bought it, but now that you've lived there for a while, it doesn't really feel like home. The kitchen, the paint colors, even the entry. The year will bring up fresh perspective to your project. So make sure you know it's yours now.
For stunning, transformative results, visit WEDaviesRemodeling.com.
If you've been diagnosed with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis, this is what it sounds like to be 1,000,000 miles away. Imagine being 1,000,000 miles away. Tremfya, Guselkumab, taken by injection, is a prescription medicine for adults with moderate to severe plaque psoriasis who may benefit from taking injections or pills or phototherapy. With Tremfya, clearer skin is possible. In clinical trials, at least 70% of patients saw at least 90% clearer skin at 16 weeks. Results may vary. Tremfya is also indicated for adults with active psoriatic arthritis. Serious allergic reactions and increased risk of infections and liver problems may occur. Before treatment, your doctor should check you for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor if you have an infection, flu-like symptoms, or immediate vaccine. Ask your doctor about Tremfya. Call 1-800-526-7736 or visit Tremfya.com.
What is dedication?
The thing that drives me every day as a dad is Dariana. We call him Day for short. Every day he's hungry for something, whether it's attention, affection, knowledge. And there's this huge responsibility in making sure that when he's no longer under my wing, that he's a good person. I think the advice I would give is you don't need to know all the answers. The craziest thing was believing that your dad knew everything. So as a dad, you felt like you had to know everything. You had to get everything right. It's okay to make mistakes. As long as it's coming from love, then, it kind of starts to work itself out. I want him to be able to sit back one day and go, we worked together, we did a good job.
That's dedication. Find out more at fatherhood.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad
Council. Kind of a quick segment here. Apologies. Run a little long with Ryan Wood, broadcasting live here at Keyes Chevytown, the north side of Menomonie. And of course, you can check out their inventory anywhere you are in the state, whether you're down in La Crosse or Madison. If you're looking for a new ride, whether it's pre-owned, certified pre-owned, they do a lot of great pre-owned vehicle sales, including the vehicle that I just I got the oil change, the tires rotation, my Malibu, during the first hour of the show here. That's where I got it. You can check out their inventory online, ChevytownUSA.com. BYs, Keyes for the best buys. Did anyone notice, by the way, that Ryan Wood, he brought up something that it caught my ear because it's something that a radio person would bring up. You know, like I can throw stuff at the wall and I can throw stuff out there, and you know, we can kick it around because it's interesting and it makes for good sports talk radio. You have credentialed members of the media, such as Ryan, not the types to throw stuff out there, right? They're not the type to just, you know, what about this? I thought this was interesting, right? They're a little bit more centered. They don't, folks like Ryan Wood or Mike Clemens don't bring up things just for the sake of, well, what if we just talked about this? Did you hear that Ryan brought up, you know, the Packers offseason coaching decision, you know, and the choice that Ed Policy is going to have to make? I just thought that was interesting because, again, that's something that we've talked about on talk radio all season. And it was written about in the offseason because Ed Policy made comments to that effect about how he didn't want to have a lame duck and how he didn't, you know, he wasn't going to give extensions until after the year. So it's something that we've been following and talking about. But, you know, for Ryan to bring that up completely and totally not out of context, but I didn't go there. We're talking about them losing a couple games that they probably shouldn't have lost, you know, special teams mistakes. We're just talking about the football of it all. And Ryan Wood goes, well, and that's why Ed Policy's got a difficult decision this offseason. Interesting. Okay. So again, that jumped out to me because that's clearly something that's maybe not in the front of Ryan Wood's mind, but it's something that at the very least it was in his mind enough for him to bring it up unprompted, which again, I just thought was interesting. That's something that radio people can kick around, but in a discussion that Ryan and I are having about them being 9-5-1 and fighting for a wild card spot instead of fighting for the division. And Ryan says, well, that's why Ed Policy's got a tough decision. Okay. Well, I wasn't even thinking about that, but interesting again that Ryan brought it up. A couple of texts here. Madtown Ryan says, if we went out and the Bears went out, do the Packers still win the division? No, they're 2 games behind the Bears in the standing. So what would need to happen? And it's not the most, you know, ridiculous concept in the world. If the Packers win the next 2 and the Bears lose the next 2, yeah, the Packers would win the division. But that's the only way. And again, it's unlikely, but I'm not discounting it as absolutely impossible. We'll see. The Niners have been playing really well. There's a world in which the Niners could be fighting for the 1 seed before too long. Like if things line up this weekend going into the final week of the season, the Niners could be in play for the 1 seed. So the Niners are good. They have a 2-day rest disadvantage on the Bears, which is a little frustrating. It's bad luck for the Packers. Bobby and Menomonie says, good on Keyes having an actual truck in the showroom. They got a bunch of them in here, man. Old and new. They got a bunch of vets as well. Their showroom's awesome. So I recommend stopping by again. Short drive from anywhere. North side of Menomonie, just off exit 41. And always online, ChevytownUSA.com. We got to get our last break of the hour here. Sorry, a short segment there. We went a little long with Ryan Wood, but we'll be back. Wrap up the first hour here at Keyes Chevytown next. Just 3 minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Let's just do it, okay?
Madison Sports Talk Station, 96.7 FM, 1670 AM. The Zone.
Tons of glass artists share the same passion for eye-catching art as Ignite Glass and Gifts, so we're showcasing their work alongside our talented local artists and our in-house Ignite artists. The latest techniques, the hottest colors, and mind-blowing designs are here for you to enjoy. Madison's favorite for glass gifts and bake, Ignite Glass and Gifts, Monona Drive, Williamson Street, and Odana Road. Plus, IgniteGlassandGifts.com. Do your eyes a favor and see this stuff.
If you're constantly consumed with food, what to eat, what you shouldn't eat, what you'll eat next, That's not willpower. That's silly food noise, and it's exhausting. At Ignite Wellness Partners in Dane County, they help you silence the food noise with medical tools like semaglutide, prescribed and monitored locally so you'll stop obsessing. This isn't some online gimmick. It's personal and proven to work. Schedule your free consultation at ignitewellnesspartners.com. Real results right here in Dane County.
Turn a remnant into a remarkable look with a selection at Wiseway Flooring. Hundreds to choose from in all lengths and sizes. With cash and carry discounts, this is an economical way to carpet your home office or family room perfection. I'm Jeremy Ensign of Wiseway Flooring, inviting you to visit our showroom in Watertown, Lake Mill, and Economowoc. See how our warehouse remnant might be the right thing for you.
Fully residential, wise heavy. Log on to islandflooringhouse.com.
Actual price will depend on product and subscription plan. Feature products or compounded drug products. Use the FDA does not approve or verify recipe effectiveness or quantity. Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. See website for details, restrictions, and important safety information.
Want to boost in and out of the bedroom? Hims has you covered. Introducing a new 2-in-1 approach to level up your game. Tadalafil for better bedroom performance and zinc for testosterone support. Put it all together and you've got what you need to turn things all the way up. Getting started is simple. Just go to hims.com/joy to start your free online visit. Through Hims, you can access ED treatments, including pills, chews, and more, 100% online. No office visits, no pharmacy lines. Just fill out a simple intake form, and a licensed medical provider will determine if treatment's right for you. If prescribed, it ships free and discreetly to your door. Find affordable treatment options at up to 95% less than branded at hims.com/joy. That's hims.com/joy, HIMS.com/JOY.
Host the Keyes Show. Bijan Robinson to the Atlanta Falcons. What advice do you have for Arch Manning, sir?
Continue to stay consistent. Don't listen to the media because the media can either steer you in the right direction or it'll tarnish you for your career. So for him, always know that everybody has his back in that building. Coach Sark continues to have his back. Everybody around him has his back, but it's not just him, it's the whole team. It's like the whole offense has to come together.
96.7 FM, 1670 AM, The Zone.
Last couple minutes of the hour here. Wisco Sports Show. We're broadcasting live in Keyes Chevytown, the north side of Menomonie, and online anytime, ChevytownUSA.com. A quick moment on the Lions. This is something that I was writing about when I was scratching down some notes earlier because I had a get up on the TV. This is the classic Bill Michaels, right? Have something on the TV as you're getting ready, and then you see some catches your eye. Oh, it's interesting. That got me thinking. They're talking about the Lions Super Bowl window and whether or not it's closed. And this is the classic thing that you do when a contender or a team that was supposed to contend is eliminated, right? How many conversations have we heard over the last month? Is the Chiefs Super Bowl window closed? And now is it the Lions Super Bowl window closed? First of all, whether or not we think they're capable of winning a Super Bowl now with Dan Campbell, Jared Goff, with this collection of players, we can have that conversation. Set that to the side. I think they can. I think they need some new juice and to repair that offensive line. And I think they're, again, just as talented and tough, and that culture is good. But that's a secondary conversation. I don't like having conversations about whether or not teams' Super Bowl windows are open or closed. I don't like window talk in the NFL. I don't want a league that's only competitors and tankers. Like, I don't like, we already have that in the NBA, but in the NBA, I get it because there are certain teams, it's like, guess what? You're not going to get free agents. So you need to hit the lottery, literally in the lottery, and get a generational player. Like, that's how you do it in Milwaukee or in Minnesota or in Charlotte or wherever. It doesn't have to be that way in the NFL. So when you say, well, is their window closed? I want every team to operate as if their window is open. They might be closer or farther away. But when you say their window is closed, that's letting the GM, that's letting the coach and the players off the hook. I want every team going balls to the walls all the time. That's how I want my league to be. And the NFL, unlike probably Major League Baseball or the NBA for market size reasons, for market reasons, it's just different, right? In a sport with a cap and where the draft is a lot more egalitarian. It's hard to get a quarterback, but it's hard for every team. You know what I mean? Like in the NBA, if the NBA was a football league, it's like, well, the Lakers would always have the good quarterback, or you know what I mean? Like all of the good quarterbacks go to big marks. That's not how it works in the NFL. Every team has the same ability, the same money, and the same, draft capital to do with what they want. So I don't like window talk. I understand why we do it, and we can have a conversation about whether or not the Lions are going to go downhill or uphill, or whether they're going to be able to maintain. This is a thought I had earlier. I don't like window talk. Like I don't want a league full of teams that are either going all in or going all out. I don't like it. We're broadcasting live here at Keyes Chevytown. We'll get an update from Zach and then be back for hour number 2 of the show. We'll talk more Packers next. Don't go anywhere.
We've got Wisconsin sports covered. This is Wisconsin Sports Zone Update.
Well, the Packers are playoff bound. That's after the Vikings beat the Lions last night, eliminating Detroit from playoff contention and guaranteeing Green Bay a spot. What that seed will be remains up in the air. They could still win the NFC North with wins over Baltimore and Minnesota, along with the Bears losing their final 2 games against San Francisco and Detroit. No matter who wins the division, though, a potential matchup between Chicago and Green Bay is looming in the playoffs. Safety Evan Williams would be a fan of seeing the Bears again after the 2 teams split their season series.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I mean, with the trend of things and, how we're looking to finish the season, we know that there's a good shot that we get another shot at those type of guys. And if and when we do, we know the type of game it's going to be. We know what we need to bring to the table, and I'll just leave it at that.
Well, the Packers announced quarterback Jordan Love will not play as he returns from a concussion. Malik Willis listed as questionable with the shoulder injury, but should get the start. Baltimore quarterback Lamar Jackson, he's listed as doubtful with the back contusion. If he can't go, Tyler Huntley would get the start in his place. Kick tomorrow night is slated for 7.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
When a company only does business in Wisconsin, that's Wisconsin Strong. Rural Mutual provides all lines of insurance, including commercial, farm, home, and auto. And your premiums stay right here to keep Wisconsin strong. Local agents, local underwriters, local claims adjusters.
Rural Mutual Insurance, keeping Wisconsin strong.
Well, the Bucs going to be back in action tonight as they travel to Memphis to take on the Grizzlies. Milwaukee just 12-18 on the year, but did beat Indiana earlier this week on the road. Tip is at 7. And the Wisconsin basketball team is still off. They'll return to action on Tuesday against Milwaukee. With this Wisconsin Sports Zone Network update, I'm Zach Heil, Print.
42 starts in college. That certainly benefits guys. Get tricky here. Jordan Addison turns on the speed. Look out, Addison. Did he get there? Balls toward the sideline. Touchdown.
Well, I'm going to be looking at a lot, I'm going to be looking at a lot of things, because I do not like being home for the playoffs.
This is where Wisconsin gathers to talk sports. Packers, Brewers, Badgers, Bucks. The Wisco Sports Show is on the air. Now, here's your host, Grant Bills.
Hour number 2. Thank you, Zach Heilbrunn, for that excellent update as always. We're broadcasting live here at Keyes Chevytown, the north side of Menomonie, a short drive from anywhere. We were here last year, I think a day or 2 before Christmas. Schedule worked out. Kate was so nice to take care of Bill and Bill's show earlier today. I saw Mark Schofield was on the show, and Mike Clemens with a great summary of the week and a preview of tomorrow's game. Some breaking Packers news this afternoon. It's going to be Malik Willis tomorrow. Jordan Love didn't clear protocol. That was my first question when I saw it. It's like, okay, so did Jordan Love clear, and is he good and they're holding him out of an abundance of caution, or did he not clear and he didn't clear? And I don't think the Packers are going to make too many decisions, start or sit based on what happened yesterday. It's nice that the Packers clinched and that they're in the playoffs, but I don't think they're in a position to make too many decisions, at least this week, based on starting and sitting, based on seeding and playoff availability, because they could still win this division, right? If the Bears lose to the Niners have been playing well. I'm not sure who I would pick in that game, but that's the sides of the point. They're not playing the Ravens and the Giants down the stretch. They're playing at least one team with something to play for. The Niners could gun for the 1 seed, which is insane. So still a lot to be decided in the NFC, even with the Packers. So Jordan Love will be out tomorrow, but it's truly because he's not available. He's still in concussion protocol. So that's the latest at this hour. A pleasure to be back at Keyes. I'm surrounded by Corvettes and Camaros and trucks, and the showroom is popping, and you can stop in and see them anytime. ask them any questions you have about their inventory or their options or anything clearly, or you can utilize their service department, which I did. I just got my slip back, nice oil change and tire rotation, which my car desperately needed. But I waited a couple hundred extra miles just so I could have it done here at their award-winning service department. And you can schedule service and check out their inventory, which is updated daily, ChevytownUSA.com. We could say a couple of things. And by the way, I'm reading the text line. So if you want to join in on the show, 608-321-1670. We could say a couple of things about the Lions. I was talking a little bit about them before this last break. We could talk about the Vikings as well. Part of the reason, honestly, that I'm very happy that the Lions lost yesterday and the Packers clinched is because I really respect the Vikings. I think Kevin O'Connell is a really good coach. I don't think he's Jesus Christ reincarnate, as a lot of people make him out to be, but I think he's really good. I think that roster is awesome. I think Brian Flores is really good. And I was not thrilled. I was not excited about a situation in which the Packers were needing a win in Minnesota in Week 18, not because I think the Vikings are much better than the Packers would be favored in that matchup, whether it's McCarthy or Brosmer or whoever playing quarterback. I just don't love the idea of facing Brian Flores' defense with a playoff spot on the line. We saw how that worked for the Lions last night. Do you think any Lions fan would have thought going into last night that there's a chance that they lose that game? The Lions still have plenty to play for. They were alive in the playoffs. And really, Brian Flores and all that talent on defense, led by the way, Denny from Holman's guy, Andrew Van Ginkel, like that's a defense that can go and win you a game if the opposing offense is willing to dance and willing to play long. And the Lions were yesterday. If the Lions don't have a single turnover, they win that game going away, right? I don't think any defense in football is so great to where they can win a game completely and totally by themselves. Like I don't think teams are going to win many games when they have negative net passing yards in the third quarter, like the Vikings and Max Brosmer did yesterday. But if the opposing offense, the opposing quarterback wants to dance along and they're willing to be complicit as the Lions were yesterday, well then yeah. And I have a hard time seeing the Packers and Jordan Love turning the ball over 6 times in a game. But Jordan Love throws one pick. Josh Jacobs fumbles once in the red zone, and then there's one weird, like it can happen. It can happen to anybody, even teams that I think are really good. And I think the Packers are really good. So I am excited that the Packers clinched a playoff spot only because now we can take a little bit of a deep breath. And I was afraid of the scenario. If let's say the Lions win yesterday and the Packers lose Saturday, or maybe they win Saturday, and then they get to Week 18 and you need to go to US Bank and win a game. I think the Packers win that game 8 or 9 times out of 10. But what if next Sunday would be that one game, right? What if next week was that like the Lions had last night? It's like, well, we win the game unless we turn the ball over 6 times. And then they turn the ball, and they turn the ball over 6 times. Like we've seen it happen. So I'm not doing cartwheels because the Packers made the playoffs. In fact, I told you back at 4:00, and I'll reprise my take a little bit here for those who have joined the show since. I'm actually looking back now at the Packers season, and I'm a little frustrated. I'm a little annoyed. I know they're in the playoffs, and I think they're really good. I think this Packers team is awesome. And if they were completely healthy, I might actually believe them to be the most talented, the best team pound for pound in the NFL. I think they're awesome. What's frustrating me and what's leaving a bad taste in my mouth, sorry to be negative the day after Christmas and the day after the Packers clinch a playoff spot, but like they should be winning this division. The North should be theirs. The Bears are probably going to win it. They just have to win one of the next 2 games, or they need the Packers to lose one of the next 2 games, or both. Clearly, that would do the trick too. That dog would hunt. This Bears team is not as good as the Packers. They're not as talented. Their quarterback's not as good. And they should have lost on Saturday to the Packers. Like, that's not a game the Packers should have lost. I understand. Look, I'll give the Packers a little bit of a pass for what happened against Carolina, because Carolina has proven to be a little bit better. They're, as Ryan Wood said in the first hour, they're NFC South good, but they're not awful. I'll maybe give the Packers a little bit of a pass on Carolina. I'll give them a pass in Denver for their injuries. Maybe Dallas. I won't give them a pass for both Dallas and Carolina. I'll give them a pass for one. Pick whichever you want. You either get to say the Cowboys are a little bit better than we thought, or the Panthers are a little bit better than we thought. Pick whatever you want. Any way that you spin it, there's 3 games this year: Carolina, Cleveland, Dallas, Carolina, Cleveland, Chicago, Carolina, Cleveland, Philly. That's a game that they had so many chances to win that game too. We barely talk about it. It's like we've forgotten that game. We've scrubbed it from our memory. but there's 3 wins they left laying on the table this year, and pick whichever 3 you want. I think it's Cleveland, Carolina, Chicago. If you want to tell me that it's actually Cleveland, Dallas, whatever. But of their 5 losses, 3 of them should have been wins. With that amount of talent, especially early on in the year, like I get going to Denver and losing because their heart was ripped out. And actually, I'll give you a cut. You just got to give me a sec to pull it up because I'm remote and playing sound. It's a little bit more complicated when I'm on remote. So I got to look up how because I saved a couple of cuts. I just got to look up the number real quick. Jeff Hafley was asked about the way the game turned in Denver in the third quarter. And he was basically asked about momentum. And I'm always interested to hear coaches talk about momentum because it's something that, a lot of nerds, they'll tell you that momentum doesn't exist. And I'll play this for you here. If I had a producer, I'd say, give me cut PGBO2. PGBO2. I'll give them a pass in Denver because all those injuries happened. I can't give them a pass for Chicago because they got injured. They field an onside kick and they win. I can't give them a pass for Carolina or for Cleveland. Those guys were all healthy, right? But I actually, since we're on the topic and we've mentioned Denver now and momentum, I'm going to give you, this is 1 minute and 39 seconds from Jeff Hafley talking about momentum and kind of how the second half of that Broncos game went. Here, this is Jeff Hafley. He spoke Christmas Eve, so this is about 48 hours old.
Matt was saying how just bizarre that game was when you only had 6 points given up in the first 57 minutes. How much of what happened after the onside kick can be attributed to momentum? It was a massive momentum play. Did that play a factor?
Yeah, I think, I respect that question. I think momentum plays a huge part in our game, right or wrong, whether you want to admit it. But I can't use that as an excuse. I mean, I'm so proud of the way those guys played in the game. I mean, we sat here all last week, and it was, how are we going to play defense without Micah, and how are we going to play defense without this guy and all these injuries, and against a top 5 offense and, a really good play caller for most of the game. I mean, they couldn't score a touchdown. I mean, it was inspiring. The third down defense was outstanding. I think they were 1 of 11 until I think the very end of the game. I just was proud of how physical we were, how fast we were, and we really thought when we were able to bleed the clock and get them to kick that field goal, just under that 2-minute warning or right at the 2-minute warning, it was, we were right there, and unfortunately what happened, and we have to get back on the field and we have to get a stop. And we had a chance to, and we were right there, right there. And we didn't get it done, so we got to finish. But, the process has always been very important to me and to us. And I thought it was right. And I'm really, really proud of the way those guys stepped up and played. And I mean that. The loss hurts. It's tough. But as always, we learn from it. We move on. And if we can continue to do that, we're going to play really well in these last 2 games and going forward.
It's funny. Jeff Hafley just gives good press conference answers, so I try to work some of those cuts into the show. But you could look at both of the last 2 weeks as a moment in the game where everything was going great and something went wrong and they didn't really respond all that well. Now, Denver, losing Micah Parsons, Christian Watson in a span of 5 minutes, like that'll shake any team. In that game against that opponent, in that environment, that's going to be really tough to bounce back from. But as we talked about the week after, that's when you look at coach quarterback. That's when you look at the leaders on the team and say, okay, what do you got? How can you rally the troops? And I truly think that some situations are, even with the best leadership, pretty insurmountable. Maybe the Denver situation and those injuries in the third quarter, maybe that applies. Chicago, man, like that onside kick, I think it felt like they lost the game on the onside kick. But what Jeff Hafley's talking about there is, we gotta lock back in. And there were some moments. In fact, I was talking to somebody here in the showroom before the show started. Somebody else was waiting for their oil change, and we were talking about, how things turned on the onside kick, and also what really felt like a gut punch was the face mask penalty. And I can't remember if it was on Stackhouse or Brinson or Cox, one of those rotational defensive linemen. And it felt like that was a huge kick to the bags too. I just think it's incumbent on defensive players and defensive coaches to be able to bounce back from that stuff. And it's hard, right? It's really hard to get a big stop or to make a big play. Like, for example, if you were to get a sack on 2nd and 10, and now it's 3rd and 16, and then you give up an 18-yard completion or a quarterback scramble for a first down, that's a gut punch, right? But the nature of defense is needing to bounce back from that, because defenses have to bounce back from bad moments or bad drives. Otherwise, it wouldn't work, because defenses don't pitch shutouts in the NFL. Like, you're going to give up yards. You're going to give up 250 yards passing you're going to give up anywhere from 60 to 150 yards rushing every week. You bake it in. So it's on players to have short memories and bounce back from that stuff. I also thought, the end of Jeff Hapley's answer talking about how proud he was, of the way his defensive guys battled and played in Chicago. I do think it's a commendable performance. They weren't able to slam the door. I look more at special teams and even on the offense. You can't fumble inside the 5-yard line when a field goal really effectively ends the game. You just can't put the ball on the ground. I think the defense did its job for 3.5 quarters, and I think sometimes that's got to be enough. Sometimes it's got to be enough. The opposing quarterback will make a great throw, or a receiver will make a great catch. I thought the game-winning touchdown that Keyshawn Nixon gave out, Keyshawn Nixon was in pretty darn good position. If I'm remembering the correct one, it was the over-the-shoulder one. I can't remember which one was the end of regulation, which one was overtime. But the one to DJ Moore over the top, it was good coverage. It was a perfect throw. Sometimes that will happen. And you can't look at all of those plays and think defense got to be better. Man, in that game, the defense did their job for 3.5 quarters. That's got to be enough. And I think Jeff Hapley talking about that. I'm not going to claim a moral win after Chicago, but in most of these Packers losses, specifically Denver, and I guess Philly to a lesser degree, but certainly Chicago, their losses have all been right there. And that's typically the mark of a really good team. I bet if you were to ask Matt LaFleur or Jeff Hapley or give any of you guys a truth serum, they believe their team is just as good as they did a week or two ago. Now, the injuries make it tougher, and the losses are certainly a gut punch. But I still think this Packers team is really, really good. Really good. It's just you back yourself into a corner, you thin the margins with all of these injuries, and now you're probably going to be a wild card, which would be difficult. I would find it very interesting if the Packers get the let's say the 7 seed, the Bears get the 2, and the opening round of the playoffs, the Packers go back to Soldier Field. I think that would be a fascinating situation. I think most Packers and Bears fans would. A couple of texts here. Coyote Mike on Ed Policy says, I think he's made his decision on LaFleur's future with the Packers. These last 6 weeks will convince him to change his mind or not. Think about it. Well, then he hasn't technically made his decision. I get what you're saying, Clem, or Coyote Mike, though. Think about it. Should he opt to replace Matt LaFleur, he must be ready to move quickly. My guess is he hired a private contractor to investigate possible replacements. He then made a list of potential candidates. He has time to thoroughly research and observe these guys during the last month of the season. He's got to have a short list ready. And if he cannot find a suitable replacement list, then does he offer Matt LaFleur a 1 or a 2-year extension? Maybe he opts to give him 3 more years, which could be risky given the Packers' history of inconsistency under Matt LaFleur. Just my thoughts. Man, I guess I don't know what you mean by inconsistency. Every year since Jordan Love has become the starter, they've made the playoffs. They've been inconsistent maybe quarter to quarter, but it's hard to argue with the end of year results. Now, some of the big plays in the game, they've struggled to make those. They haven't had a playoff win now in 2 years, so but I'm with you, Coyote Mike, in that Ed Policy, I believe this from the beginning, it's not sourced at all. This is just an educated guess based on human behavior and how the Packers operate. I think Ed Policy I think Ed Policy needs to see a reason. He's like, give me a reason to fire you. Give me a reason to make a change. I think his base position, his home base position is, I want to keep this thing going. I want to retain Goody. I want to retain Matt LaFleur. Unless those guys give me a reason, I'm not looking to make a move. And I think that's basically what you're saying, Mike, just in different words. Rick from Spencer says, I have a hard time thinking Dan Campbell won't play to win against the Bears. I mean, I think Dan Campbell's going to play to win, but they're starting to run out of bodies. And I'm with Ryan Wood a little bit. I mean, Kirby Jones, didn't he blow out his Achilles or his ACL? Brian Branch did the same. It would just be real stupid. And I think Dan Campbell would take a ton of crap if he ran, Jahmyr Gibbs or Jamison Williams out there in a meaningless Week 18 game and one of them, pops a ligament or breaks a bone. You'd say, okay, well, at what point does the kneecap approach end and the common sense begin? So I think mentally they will play to win. I feel like the organization or the higher ups or Dan Campbell himself will take some of those players off the field, right? Madtown Ryan says another point of change was actually in Jordan Love's mindset after Christian Watson went down. You could see he got in his head, and that's like half. He didn't play good. Granted, that defense is good. Yeah, and he was missing his right tackle too. I think that was part of it. Vance Joseph made some good adjustments. But yeah, that was my only criticism of Jordan Love coming out of Denver. I think that's the only criticism you could have. He played really well until things went sideways and he looked a little overwhelmed. It snowballed on him, and I think he was a little shaky and a little nervous the same way that he was against the Eagles. And I think those are truly the only 2 games that I've watched this year, whereas like Jordan Love is shaken a bit. Cleveland, you could maybe say, but I just think he was running for his life the whole time. That game was such a calamity. Philly and Denver, I think, are two games where Jordan Love got sped up and he was a little overwhelmed. And they could end up going back to Philly in the playoffs. So that's something they're going to have to be prepared for. Ryan continues, my worry with coaching changes, everyone in the locker room was drafted or traded with LaFleur as their head coach. That could happen next year with no Matt LaFleur. Yeah, I don't know. I'm really not even considering the possibility. I only mentioned that the Packers could make a coaching change because Ryan Wood brought it up in his interview. He's like, this is why Ed Policy's got a difficult decision. I'm like, all right, well, if you're going to bring it up, if you're going to talk about it, because I throw stuff at the wall all the time. That's what sports talk radio is for. But Ryan Wood or Mike Clemens or like a Tom Silverstein type, that's how you know that it's at least worth talking about or it's worth mentioning. We're broadcasting live here, Keyes Chevytown on the north side of Menomonie. And you need to be wise. See Keyes for the best buys. ChevytownUSA.com. Their inventory is updated daily. You can schedule service as well as I did a week or two ago. I just got my slip. My Malibu is filled with clean oil. The tires have been rotated. It'll be a nice, easy drive back to Madison on Sunday when it comes back time to go to the studio and start producing Bill's show again. Kate did a good job today. Mark Schofield, Mike Clemens were both great. It was a good show. I enjoyed listening while preparing for my show with a cup of coffee in my pajamas. Don't tell Bill if Bill asks. I was at family gathering. I have a family gathering tomorrow, but I told Bill, it's like, man, if I could stay up here, I could stay with the family a couple more days. So I appreciate Kate filling in. But anyways, fresh oil, fresh tire rotation, easy drive back to Madison. And that's thanks to Chevytown. Keyes Chevytown. That's ChevytownUSA.com. Less than a mile off I-94, exit 41 on the north side of Menomonie, and a short drive from anywhere. We'll come back and talk more Packers next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network. Keep your head in the game.
The Wisco Sports Show.
Follow us on Instagram at @zone_medicine.
In Disney's The Lion King and in our world, fatherhood plays an important role. Take time to be a dad today. Visit fatherhood.gov to learn more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Save big money, now even up. Stand up to life's messes with Great Lakes Vinyl Plank Flooring. It's beautiful, durable, and easy to install. Plus, it's pet-friendly, waterproof, and has sound-reducing attached pads for added comfort. Don't wait to finish your projects. Update your spaces with Great Lakes Legends Vinyl Plank Flooring for just $2.89 per square foot through December 31st. Plus, check out our weekly flyer on Menards.com for all the great deals happening now.
Years ago, I loaded a single ladder, a few tools, and my overwhelming grit and determination into an SUV.
Wisco Sports
Over
Show.
time, I hired more painters and developed specialized teams. Today, the Painter Lady continues to serve our area with free estimates, stellar products, and a super skilled team.
The Painter Lady, creating beautiful and inspiring spaces.
Visit thepainterlady.com.
I am federal employee. I was supported. I am a Customs and Border Protection officer. My job is to keep my country safe.
Install enemies.
We work to make the national banking system safe and sound.
I am proud to work for America.
Go to theyworkforus.org.
I
am
federal employee. I was supported. I am a Customs and Border Protection officer. My job is to keep my country safe.
Install enemies.
We work to make the national banking system safe and sound.
I am proud to work for America.
Go to theyworkforus.org.
Rain-X wipers are the #1 wiper blades in America. That means all kinds of drivers choose Rain-X. Big drivers with small cars choose Rain-X. Small drivers and big cars choose Rain-X. Drivers with long hair and short commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with short hair and long commutes choose Rain-X. Drivers with pets on board, babies on board, and board babies on board choose Rain-X. Basically, drivers who love a clear view of the road all choose Rain-X wipers, the #1 wiper blades in America.
Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Those with Keyes and Joe. The Denver Broncos started slow, and then they took care of business against the Eagles in Philadelphia in total Sean Payton fashion, which is hit you in the mouth and then just do bat guano crazy stuff like going for two and roll the dice so you can get a 1-point lead rather than give the Eagles an option. Sean Payton's
Merry
got to be
Christmas. Happy
feeling
holidays.
really good.
Appreciate you guys working on Christmas Eve.
96.7 FM,
I appreciate
1670
it. I
AM.
do. I really do. It looks like some people took Christmas Eve off. You know, for those like looking, this whole side of the room right now is empty. So to those who missed it, Merry Christmas to them too. Clearly, they're enjoying it more than us in this room.
I felt targeted. Felt targeted as I was off on Christmas Eve. Whoops. It's a little bit more from Jeff Hafley. I'll play you another comment or two, including a nice 2-minute. I don't know if I want to call it a rant, but a 2-minute comment that he gave about Keyshawn Nixon and how that Bears game ended. Continue to talk a little Packers, Ravens tomorrow. We have barely discussed the Ravens at all. There's actually a lot of interesting things going on with the Ravens, so we'll get into that maybe in this segment. We're broadcasting live here at Keyes Chevytown, the north side of Menomonie. Short drive from anywhere. They've been doing it for 3 generations. They run an absolutely tremendous business. Truly a privilege to speak on their behalf and represent them in the broadcast here. Not to mention, I got my whip with them last September. They do a great job, but a family and a business has been doing a really good job for a long time. So truly a pleasure to be here. And online at any time you want to schedule service or check out their inventory, ChevytownUSA.com. I'll continue to take your text at 608-321-1670. Eric on I-90, his Vikings beat the Lions yesterday. He says the Lions can't beat anyone. Man, that's kind of how it feels, Eric. It just kind of feels like the last few weeks, whatever the Lions have needed to do to lose a game, they have done. And I don't even, it's been really interesting to follow the discourse around the Lions the last 24, 48 hours, but especially the last couple of weeks, as it's clear that it's just not their year. There's a lot of interesting moving parts. There's the Jared Goff bit of it all. He's set to make like $70 million next year against the cap. Now, you can adjust that, but then you're going to have to extend him. And I don't know folks' appetite for more Jared Goff years. I don't know. So there's the Jared Goff of it all. There's the Dan Campbell of it all. And the fact that he's calling offensive plays now because John Morton, that didn't really work. Dan Campbell, somebody can take the play sheet and get in a good flow here and there. But it's like, man, it's a full-time thing, scheming week to week, putting it together week to week. Having Dan Campbell get on a heater with play calling is a little different than having an offensive conductor or a coordinator. I mean, that's the reason that the word is used. I was looking for another word, but a coordinator is the perfect word. It's the title for a reason, I suppose. So there's that whole part of the Lions conversation. There's the fact that Ben Johnson's not there anymore, which, we can clearly see what he's done in Chicago and draw a direct line to Detroit and say they don't have this anymore. I think the bones of what makes the Lions really good are still there. They're really injured for the second straight year. One of my best friends is a Lions fan, and I brought this up before, and he doesn't like it because I don't know why he doesn't like it. Fan is short for fanatic after all, but I always point out, man, Ford Field is a nasty surface. It's up there with the Meadowlands. It's one of those stadiums where it's turf, but it's like AstroTurf on top of a parking lot. It's not, some of these buildings have turf, which most players say is it's a surface that leads to injuries more than grass, but there's even levels to turf, right? And the Meadowlands and Ford Field, there's a couple of these buildings that players just don't like. And I can't help but think that plays some role in it. Nobody's talked about it. John Middlecoff floated it in a podcast a couple of weeks ago. I'm like, someone look into this, right? Because the Lions are just banged to hell again. I'm inclined to defend Dan Campbell a little bit. I think when we evaluate coaches, we're so, I don't know, our frame of reference is so small, right? That's what I think. I think when you look at the best coaches in the NFL who have had long tenures with their teams, and I've talked about this before too, Andy Reid would apply. Andy Reid, the entire body of work of his entire career is really strong. And no one would look at Andy Reid and say, that's not a good coach or he hasn't had a good career. But when you get caught up in the year to year, and this is why actually local sports talk radio is a great gauge and a great tool for measuring these things, is year to year, on local sports talk radio, we're talking about how, well, Andy Reid's good, but he hired a crappy coordinator. He needs to fire this coordinator. Or, for example, Matt Nagy left Kansas City to go coach the Bears. Well, now Andy Reid's got to replace him. They may be a different degree of successful with a different coordinator on either side of the ball with Andy Reid. So Andy Reid, you think, well, a great coach and has always been a winner, has always been great. But if you were to immerse yourself in the market of Kansas City and follow along with the ebbs and flows, there's going to be ebbs and flows. This was true with McCarthy, too. You go through different defensive coordinators, you have ups and downs in the roster. Coaches are victims of their own success when they have long tenures. Ben Johnson was a coordinator for a couple of good years. Now he leaves, and now it's on Dan Campbell to replace him. John Morton in the first year was not a success. Dan Campbell had to take back play calling. I would imagine that he will fire John Morton or reassign him and replace him. Let's see who he goes and gets. You know what I mean? Like, we're so caught up if you watch, ESPN, or if you listen to national sports talk radio, it's like, Dan Campbell, I don't think he's that good. We lost Ben Johnson. He's no good. It's like, okay, well, maybe he made a bad hire. I think Dan Campbell deserves a little bit more credit than he's gotten this year. I've been saying this going all the way back to the offseason. But coaches who have tenures that are longer than 2 or 3 years, they're going to have to replace coordinators. And if they're a coach for a long time, they're going to have to do it multiple times. This has been the case with Tomlin forever, going through offensive coordinators. I remember when Todd Haley was there, and that was a whole thing, right? Like, if you're a coach for a long time, that's how it works. And I think local media, or people who listen to local sports talk or follow their teams, in depth year to year, they'll tell you all about this. We could do it with McCarthy. Steelers fans could do it with Tomlin. I think Eagles fans, both in Philly and Kansas City, could do it with Andy Reid. I just think, well, Ben Johnson's brilliant, and Dan Campbell's an idiot. It's like, okay, well, Ben Johnson's having a great first year, and I think he's a very good coach. Let's give it another year or two and see the natural ebbs and flows of coach. I'm not telling you he's going to fall off a table and that he's going to stink, but a coach coming in revitalizes a franchise, revitalizes a quarterback in an offense. Let's wait to see until coaches leave, coaches are hired, right? Coaches are tested over the tenure of their career. How many coaches have we seen come in right away and be amazing, and then they can't sustain it? Again, I'm not saying that's going to be Ben Johnson, but that's how we should measure coaches. Dan Campbell, I think, if they don't suffer a bunch of injuries, maybe they're in the playoffs right now. We're not having these conversations. I don't know. I find the way that coaches are judged big picture, based on certain hires. It's like, well, guess what? When Ben Johnson was your offensive coordinator and leaves, you're probably going to take a step back. Whether or not Dan Campbell's the best coach in the world or not, you're going to take a step back. That's just how it works. And I think we lose sight of that fact. So there's a couple of minutes on the Lions. Hector, non Alaska. Hope you had a Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas, by the way, to everyone. Happy holidays. I saw the Brewers. So I have to point this out. The Brewers tweeted out Happy Kwanzaa, and that's fine. If you celebrate Kwanzaa, Happy Kwanzaa, whatever you celebrate. I hope that you're celebrating it and it's great. But what made me laugh is the Brewers tweeted out Happy Kwanzaa with a graphic. And the title, or the caption of the tweet was Happy Kwanzaa to you and yours, which is the most Midwest framing for a holiday that's, you know what I mean? It's not a traditional, there are folks in the Midwest who celebrate, but do you get what I'm saying? Happy Kwanzaa to you and yours. It's like no one, I doubt anyone's ever said that in the history of the world. Hector, not Alaska. I'm looking forward to being up in Green Bay for the game. Yes, you're a Ravens fan. Must-win game for the Ravens, and I'm hoping they actually show up to play. Tough to say we're facing a backup when Willis runs the offense so well. This may seem super simple, but run Derrick Henry all night. Yeah, it's interesting to me, man. Maybe we can talk about the Ravens for a couple minutes when we get back. Jared and Madison. Grant, did you see Kirk Cousins shout out Racine Pringle, certified ball knower? Yeah, I thought of Mad Max in the Racine tunnels. I love it when Racine gets mentioned on a national scale. When we come back, a couple of thoughts on the Ravens. They've been making headlines. I guess more specifically, Lamar Jackson has been making headlines. So that colors tomorrow night's contest. We'll get into that, preview tomorrow night's game. Broadcasting live here at Keyes Chevytown. We're right in the showroom. Short drive from anywhere, the north side of Menomonie. You can check out their inventory or schedule service. ChevytownUSA.com. We'll be back in just a couple minutes.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network. Madison's #1 sports talk station, 96.7 FM, 1670 AM, The Zone.
This New Year's Eve, the countdown gets loud at the Lazy Oak Lounge. It's the party where the drinks stay cold, the music stays hot, and the good vibes last all night long. Live music by Saturday Morning Cartel, 8 to 12:30. Enjoy a champagne shot toast at midnight, late night tasty bites, party favors, and more. Grab your friends, kiss 2025 goodbye, and ring in 2026 at the Lazy Oak Lounge New Year's Eve party beginning at 8 p.m. It's where you want to be when the clock strikes midnight. The Lazy Oak Lounge, Stoughton Road. There are hundreds of ways to prepare Wisconsin potatoes. They're easy, versatile, and kid-friendly. Yes, even for the picky eater. Oven roast them, air fry them, chop them for a salad, or mash them fluffy and warm. Vitamin-packed Wisconsin potatoes are deeply rooted in sustainability. Only the best for your health.
The Wisco Sports Show will
Your team for fresh, local, from farmers for families who are Mother Nature intended.
This looks like a car. And its tires, headlights are hood, windshield wipers. The doors look like car doors. Open up your too. There's a front seat, back seat, steering wheel. 99.9% of the time, this would be a car. But it's not. This is a bedroom. Anita Washington's for 5 weeks. There are people like Anita all across Dane County. And because the need is there, so are we. This year, we'll provide Anita and other women, children, and men with nearly 20,000 nights of shelter. Just one part of more than $1.4 million in food, clothing, furniture, and other goods and services we provide. We're St. Vincent de Paul, helping our neighbors in need.
Interested in a natural alternative to Ozempic or other semaglutide drugs that work with the GLP-1 hormone? Hi, I'm Tim O'Brien, owner of The Healthy Place. Control D from Terry Naturally, available at The Healthy Place, is here to help. This supplement features a clinically studied herb that's been used in Europe for over 60 years, with patients finding consistent results. Control D is designed to support healthy A1C levels throughout the day, enhance carbohydrate metabolism, which leads to balanced sugar levels and overall weight loss, with no prescription and at a fraction of the cost of what you'd be paying Big Pharma. For a safe, natural, and effective way to support A1C levels, maintain your weight and blood sugar with no side effects, Sucontrol-D has been helping our community for years.
The Wisco Sports
Visit
Show.
findyourhealthyplace.com or drop by The Healthy Place to start seeing the difference. The Healthy Place.
We all hear the radio ads about the IRS. They tell you to be afraid, to be scared, and they try to frighten you into calling. I'm not here to do that. Tax Relief Advocates is different. TRA is here to tell you that if you owe money to the IRS, whether it's $5,000, $50,000, or $500,000, we have a solution. It doesn't matter if you're sitting in your car, at work, or with your kids. No matter where you are, call now. 800-498-6548. Don't lose hope. TRA can eliminate or reduce what you owe to the IRS. Generous programs are now available that can give you a fresh start. Our passion is taxes and helping individuals fix their IRS problems. We have over 1,000 5-star reviews on Google and an A+ with the Better Business Bureau. You don't need to be afraid of the IRS any longer. End your tax nightmare today by visiting us online at TRA.com or call 800-498-6548. That's 800-498-6548. Tax Relief Advocates. Real solutions for real people.
What is dedication?
My daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
That's dedication.
Saying
Visit
how
fatherhood.gov to hear
bizarre
more.
that game
Brought to
was
you by
when
the U.S.
you only
Department of
had
Health and
6
Human
points
Services
given up in
and
the
the
first
Ad Council.
57 minutes. How much of what happened after the onside kick can be attributed to momentum? It was a massive momentum play. Did that play a factor?
Yeah, I think, I respect that question. I think momentum plays a huge part in our game, right or wrong, whether you want to admit it. But I can't use that as an excuse. I mean, I'm so proud of the way those guys played in the game. I mean, we sat here all last week and it was, how are we going to play defense without Micah, and how are we going to play defense without this guy and all these injuries, and against a top 5 offense and, a really good play caller for most of the game. I mean, they couldn't score a touchdown. I mean, it was inspiring. The third down defense was outstanding. I think they were 1 of 11 until I think the very end of the game. I just was proud of how physical we were, how fast we were. And, we really thought when we were able to bleed the clock and get them to kick that field goal, just under that 2-minute warning or right at the 2-minute warning, it was, we were right there, unfortunately what happened, and we have to get back on the field and we have to get a stop. And we had a chance to, and we were right there, right there. And we didn't get it done, so we got to finish. But, the process has always been very important to me and to us. And I thought it was right. And I'm really, really proud of the way those guys stepped up and played. And I mean that. The loss hurts. It's tough. But as always, we learn from it. We move on. And if we can continue to do that, we're going to play really well in these last 2 games and going forward.
That's a comment from Jeff Hafley. We heard that earlier, but anytime Jeff Hafley speaks, I'm going to listen to the presser, and I'm going to cut a couple of things out that I think are worthwhile. Just talking about the end of that Bears game, and I think momentum kind of killed him after that onside kick. And a little bad luck, again, the face mask penalty, I can't remember who it was, whether it was Brinson or Cox. That's a little bad luck. I think Nixon was good in coverage on one of those deep touchdowns. Just Bears made a couple plays. That's why the offense can't fumble inside the 5. So you got to recover the onside kick. We're broadcasting live here at Keyes Chevytown, the north side of Menomonie. Been doing it for 3 generations. I got my Malibu with them last September. I have nothing but outstanding things to say about every step of the process, and their service department as well, which I utilized today. Needed an oil change, so get 2 birds stoned at once. Come broadcast in their showroom, do the show here, be back live on the air after a couple days off for Christmas, and also important vehicle maintenance, especially this time of year when it's cold and the roads are slick, and we're traveling over into the cities tomorrow, see families. So you just want to make sure that everything's up to date. So take advantage of their award-winning service department, and you can see their inventory, which is updated daily, ChevytownUSA.com. Have any of you seen the Lamar Jackson, I don't want to say chatter or buzz or whatever, because really it's one author at the Baltimore Sun who wrote a story basically saying that the Ravens should explore Lamar Jackson trades, which, on its face, I guess in my perspective, I'm sure Ravens fans would disagree, but on its face isn't the most ridiculous thing in the world. He's seemingly getting injured and missing more time as his career goes along. And if he had won, a Super Bowl early on, let's say Rodgers did, let's say that Lamar Jackson's career followed the exact path of Aaron Rodgers, where he won a couple of MVPs and statistically was just unbelievable, and he's winning all pros, but he happened to win a Super Bowl in there. Then it'd be a little more difficult. But Lamar Jackson just has not been good in the playoffs. And I hear Nick Wright say this. I think it's great framing. He's consistently played his worst game of the year every year in the most important game of the year every year. So I guess if a columnist wants to write and make the case that the Ravens should explore Lamar Jackson trades, not a ridiculous premise. To me, it's more the reporting or the anecdotes that are included in the story. This is what he wrote, and I don't have the author's name. Hold on, let me see if I can find it real quick. Baltimore Sun. Mike Preston, who's been doing this since the early 80s. He's covered the team for a long time. This is the excerpt that I clipped. The breakdown of an NFL player's body is natural, but Jackson could help himself. He doesn't need to be up late at night playing video games or falling asleep in team meetings. He wrote after noting the quarterback's multiple injuries this season. He needs to train more around the castle instead of only attending mandatory minicamps where he disappears after day 1. I also read somewhere that the Ravens practice in the afternoon because that's what Lamar Jackson prefers. He stays up late. He seems to get sick a lot. It's just, and it's weird. I listen to John Harbaugh pressers. It doesn't often sound like him and Lamar are on the same page about injuries. Remember a couple weeks ago when the Ravens, he practiced all week and and then all of a sudden he wasn't playing, and they got in trouble, for gambling reasons. Which, man, I don't care. You gamble on games, like, that's a part of it. Not to be unsympathetic to your gambling cause if you're a gambler. I think that's part of it, right? You bet on games. There's crazy stuff that happens in games. There's crazy stuff that happens outside of games. So if you place a bet on a Monday because you like the line, you got to know that things can happen between Monday and Sunday, even though you got that line. If you don't want to risk that stuff, well, then, bet it later on in the week, even if you don't like the line as much. If you don't like the line at all, then you don't have to bet it. I don't care about the gambling stuff, but I think that week was an example of John Harbaugh and the Ravens believing one thing and the player in the players' camp completely and totally believing another. And when you start seeing that, it's the writing's not on the wall, but the paint has been pulled out of the closet and it's like it's sitting near the wall. Like, we're getting to that point. You can look at Jair. That's what happened with Jair. Right now, he was just toast. A lot lesser player, a less important position. But when you start seeing team and player disagree about when player will be available, that's typically a horrible sign. Mike Preston also wrote about, like, this happened last time Lamar was in a contract dispute with the team or trying to get an extension. This type of stuff started happening. I understand a star wide receiver or a corner maybe dogging a back injury to make a point. I still wouldn't like it, wouldn't want it on my team. And I don't think a winning player who does things the right way would miss meaningful regular season games to make a point about a contract. But for a quarterback, it's unthinkable. I can't have that from a quarterback. I also think it's interesting that this article comes out now because John Harbaugh is, I don't know if he's on the hot seat. Again, I think the best gauge for whether or not a coach is on a hot seat is listening to local sports talk radio. Like, I'm not going to listen to Cowherd to learn about Mike Tomlin or Lamar Jackson's job security or John Harbaugh's job security. I'm going to listen to the hosts in that town that are plugged in and been doing it for a long time and that you get calls. That's how you get a good sense. So I don't know. But a lot of people have talked about John Harbaugh. It's like, well, has his voice grown stale? That's the very classic thing to say about a coach. Great coach, he'll be hired tomorrow, but the message has played its course. Message has gone stale, right? Like, everyone always says that. And it's true, but everyone always says it. So I roll my eyes a little bit. It's a cliche. And I think we said that about McCarthy at the end. It was probably true. And it might be true of Harbaugh, it might be true of Tomlin, or maybe they're crappy coaches and they don't get hired. Like, I always want to be the one to point that out. There's like, if he gets fired, he'll be hired tomorrow. Well, I don't know. Mike Vrabel wasn't. Lots of coaches get fired and then don't get jobs for whatever reason. People want to do the new thing. They want to go younger. They want to go unproven, right? That type of thing. I just think it's interesting that this stuff comes out now as John Harbaugh's job security and future called into question because that stuff's coming from somewhere. Like, that insight or that inside information about Lamar Jackson's practice habits or sleep habits or video game habits, like, that's coming from somewhere. Someone is passing that along. And it certainly would make sense for that to come from Lamar's camp. So it must be coming from someone with the Ravens. And why would it come out now? Because the coaching staff's on the chopping block and they're like, dude, what do you want from us? Lamar stays up until 4 a.m. playing Call of Duty every night, and his immune system sucks because he doesn't get any sleep. You know what I mean? Or, whatever. Like, that's why it would come up. So I think the Ravens have all, I don't know if they're officially eliminated, but whether it is official or de facto, they are done. If the Packers don't come out tomorrow and look like the more dialed, more focused, more aggressive team, even with a backup quarterback, I know the Packers clinched, but like, it should look like two different caliber teams tomorrow. It should, because that's what we're dealing with. The Ravens, as Ryan Wood said in the first hour, they've been telling us that they're a bad team all year. Believe them. Listen to them. Trust your eyes. Trust what you've seen. Trust what you've thought about this team all along. I thought the opposite about the Packers for all but a week or two of this season. And guess what? Even the best teams have a bad week or two. I think had the Broncos been playing anybody other than whoever the Chiefs had playing quarterback last night, like, they might lose last night. It happens. But for the big picture of the season, the Packers have been a very good team. The Ravens have been a bad team for the most part. Luke on the dirt roads, very Merry Christmas, Grant. What are the odds Tyler Huntley repeats his last performance against Green Bay? He just about pulled out the win. What year was that? Was that 2019? The Packers are so much better than that now. Their tight end seem shells of themselves when they used to be the exact thing you'd need to beat us. Both teams going 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I don't know. The Derrick Henry experience in Baltimore is fascinating because he either gets the ball a ton and he fumbles at the worst time, or they don't give him the ball, and they instead play through Lamar, and then everyone's mad that they gave the ball to Lamar instead of Derrick Henry. I don't know. I'm glad that I'm not caught up in that team, and the Packers aren't without their problems and their injury issues, but I think it would be a very tiring place right now to be a Ravens fan, which is maybe why these Lamar Jackson trades are being thrown around. Even if it's just one or two writers, it's just interesting that that's entered the zeitgeist. Just interesting to talk about on the heels of tomorrow's game. One final segment coming up. We're broadcasting here at the showroom. I'm right in front of it. Got some Corvettes, got some Camaro. It's pretty badass. We're here at Keyes Chevytown on the north side of Menomonie. Inventory updated daily. You can give them a call as well. ChevytownUSA.com. That's the place to start. Even if you just want to schedule service or you're thinking about upgrading a new car or certified pre-owned one, they can help you out. Less than a mile off I-94. They've been doing it a long time and helping folks not just all over Northwest Wisconsin, all over the country with certain specific whips. I was in here last time and they're telling, yeah, a guy, we had something that he wanted. He was from Norway and was willing to make it happen. They've been helping folks a long time. So do as I have done and many have done. Be wise, see Keyes for the best buys. Get started at Keyes Chevytown, ChevytownUSA.com. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. We'll wrap up the show next.
This is the Wisco Sports Show with Grant Bills on the Wisconsin Sports Zone Radio Network.
Dominate today.
The Wisco Sports Show. 96.7 FM, 1670 AM.
Bring your own juice, pal. Bring the juice. Let's go.
The Zone.
Would it be crazy if you packed your bags and left? Peace Corps. Life is calling. How far will you go? To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or visit peacecorps.gov.
There goes Dan Yankee across Wisconsin in her Suburban truck. Thanks to Zimbrick Chevrolet, Dane County's #1 volume Chevy dealer with over 70 new Chevy trucks to choose from. Zimbrick Chevrolet Miss Madison, Sun Prairie, and ZimbrickChevrolet.com. Be sure to keep up with Pam and her travels at MidwestFarmReport.com and on Facebook at Midwest Farm Report, on Instagram at MWF Report, or by downloading the Midwest Farm Report app. You've seen him on the bag. Now follow him online. It's Lofi, Country Heart's mascot. And not only is he a cute little slice, he adds a bit of fun to Fridays. Follow Lofi on Facebook for Free Bread Fridays. Each week is post-made food, kid-friendly coloring page, a fun bit of trivia, or one of his famous dad jokes. Jokes may be stale, but his bread is always fresh. Just like his post each week for a chance to win a coupon for a free Country Heart product. Join the party with Country Heart of Lofi on Facebook.com/Country Heart Breads. Because when the bread is free, the fun rises.
Would it be crazy if you packed your bags and left? Peace Corps. Life is calling. How far will you go? To find out more, call 1-800-424-8580 or visit peacecorps.gov.
All business owners want the same thing, to make their business succeed. At Rural Mutual, they help that happen. As the third largest writer of commercial business in Wisconsin, they take the time to learn your business so they can properly protect you. Call your local agent today or visit ruralmutual.com. Show will resume in 1 minute. Are you looking to hire? ZipRecruiter finds the best candidate for your job fast. Try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free. ZipRecruiter.com/free. Whether picking up a prescription, getting help navigating the healthcare system, or checking in at home, CVS Health is there to make care easier and more connected. Our future is brighter together. Learn more at CVSHealth.com/Investor Day.
In terms of the defending American Football Conference champion Kansas City Chiefs, the team that has played in the Super Bowl for 3 straight years, I properly say the team that we saw last night is the type of team that can play in the Super Bowl once again. They came back, and what they needed to do is exactly what happened: make the other team's mistakes.
All kinds of quarterback questions entering a really big game, particularly for the Ravens, who at this point appear unlikely to have their two-time NFL MVP quarterback Lamar Jackson on the field in Green Bay. Jackson officially is listed as doubtful because of what Coach John Harbaugh has called a serious back contusion suffered on this play last week. Jackson has not practiced this entire week. Definitionally, if you are listed as doubtful, that means that you are unlikely to play. They have not entirely slammed the door, but once again, much tonight, they are officially eliminated from playoff contention. On the other side of this, both of the top two Packers quarterbacks officially are listed as questionable. Starter Jordan Love suffered a concussion last week. Now, he has practiced the past couple of days, but by rule, because he has not yet cleared the concussion protocol, he has to be listed as questionable. My understanding is Love has looked good. He is feeling good, but there are 5 steps in that return to play protocol, including clearance by an independent neurologist. If that does not happen, Love will not be playing on Saturday night. The medical guidance is going to determine his status. Backup Malik Willis, by the way, dealing with a right shoulder injury as well as an illness. He returned to practice on Thursday, also listed as questionable. My understanding is Willis is trending towards being available in the event Love does not gain that clearance. As for running back Josh Jacobs, he officially is off the injury report as he continues to deal with swelling in his knee as well as an ankle injury. The question now becomes, how much of it all do they actually play Jacobs on Saturday night? The Packers, by virtue of the Lions' loss on Thursday, have already clinched a playoff spot. Do they roll Jacobs out there? You know he always wants to go. Or do they ease off him, maybe play more Emmanuel Wilson to give Jacobs a little extra time to rest? Remember, the NFC North title remains within reach, Sherry, but that would require 2 Packers wins and 2 Bears losses.
It's so frustrating that's the situation there, by the way. The NFC North title in reach if the Packers win out and the Bears win out. They should have won this division. They should be winning this division this weekend at the latest with how many games they've peed away, as I've discussed a couple of times throughout the show, so we don't need to belabor it. Last couple of minutes here at Keyes Chevytown. We're right in the showroom, and you can start your buying process or schedule service, ChevytownUSA.com. Be wise, see Keyes for the best buys. I think the Packers should win tomorrow. I haven't even looked at the spread because Bill and I didn't do our picks this week. We should see 2 different versions of 2 very different teams tomorrow, which is funny because Malik Willis is going to start. So you wouldn't necessarily believe this to be true, but the Packers should come off and look like the more focused, locked in, well put together team with an actual singular purpose. The Ravens are flailing, appropriate for a team with a bird mascot. The Packers are, let's see here, -3.5. And I wonder if that number was larger. I haven't checked it throughout the week. I don't know what it opened. I guess it opened. No, I guess it opened at 2.5, and now it's moved to 3.5, which is funny. The quarterback news is actually, I'm not going to say that it's made people more optimistic about the Packers. It hasn't done the opposite. Put it that way. It hasn't deterred people from betting the Packers. We should see 2 very different looking teams tomorrow. The Ravens are a little rudderless. They have a coach who appears to maybe be on the hot seat, a quarterback who's being mentioned in trade conversations by longstanding columnists. His work habits have been questioned, right? All sorts of things like that. Famous last words, I suppose. I'm not terrified of Derrick Henry too much. I think the Ravens could probably rush with Derrick Henry for, however many yards tomorrow, and I don't know that it matters in the end. The Packers defense has to continue to do the thing that's made them great, and I mentioned this with Brian Wood in the first hour. They have to keep a 3-yard gain a 3-yard gain, and a 6-yard gain a 6-yard gain. It's when they start allowing those 3-yard gains to turn into 8-yard gains, that's when things start to slip away from them. And Derrick Henry is certainly difficult to bring down. They only have like 13 defensive linemen on the roster right now. I wonder if they're going to have to make a roster move, I would assume, to elevate Clayton Tune tomorrow. So somebody will have to go, or they could, make a special teams move. Christian Welch was put on IR today, so maybe they could, elevate some sort of a special teams replacement or a reinforcement. Or maybe they go with a mountain of defensive linemen tomorrow just for Derrick Henry purposes, and then they make those adjustments later on before week 18. I don't know. Time will tell. But I would imagine the Ravens are going to have a steady diet of Derrick Henry. You just hope that he fumbles. In fact, Jeff Hafley was asked about that on Wednesday. He said, hey, this guy's got a penchant for fumbling. Is that something that's, part of the game plan? I swear, if they're not forcing fumbles, then we got to have some interceptions tomorrow. It's been really frustrating to watch these defensive backs have opportunity after opportunity to pull down interceptions, especially a player like Xavier McKinney. I get it with Quay Walker. He's dropped lots of interceptions over his career. It's just kind of part of who he is as a player. I would love to see that change, ideally in a big moment in a playoff game. But I'm not going to hold my breath. Xavier McKinney, that's not acceptable. That's not going to hunt. That dog's not going to work for this defense. So something to monitor tomorrow. Derrick Henry, his usage and his should I say penchant for fumbling when it absolutely bones his team. And the same with Mark Andrews. Like, oh, it's a big moment in the game. I'm going to make the stupidest play or drop the worst, drop that you've ever seen in your life. So enjoy the game tomorrow night. Pay for Peacock because that's where it is. I feel like we should get a reduced rate now that it's 2 backup quarterbacks, but that's live sports, I suppose. Have a great weekend. We'll be back in studio on Monday, able to take your calls, react to whatever happens with the Packers, and be back with Bill on Monday at 10 as well.